Hey everybody, and welcome to another 30-minute webinar by Flyte New Media. My name is Rich Brooks, and as you can see from your screen, today's topic is the Small Business Guide to Business Blogging. One of my favorite topics, actually. I love blogging. It's been something that's been a cornerstone of all of our marketing activity for over a decade now, and really glad that so many of you could join us today to learn a little bit more about how you can blog for your business. As usual, we're going to try and cram everything into 30 minutes so you can get back to work. All content, no fluff. And so let's dive right in. By the way, I love questions, but I don't usually check them until after the session's over. So as we're going through, if you have any questions, just please put them into the questions box in your GoToWebinar tab, and I'll answer as many of them as I can at the end. So as I often do, I just want to start off with the framework that all digital marketing comes under, what we call the BEAR Essentials of Digital Marketing. BEAR is an acronym. The B is for build, talking about how to build a platform that turns visitors into customers. This is primarily your website, but certainly would include your blog as well. A is for attract, or how do we drive qualified traffic to your website? And a lot of that comes from SEO, social media, and digital advertising. And all three of them kind of touch on blogging, especially search and social. R is for retain, or how do we stay in touch with our customers once they've left our website? And the E is for evaluate, which is basically how do we measure what we're doing to make sure that it's effective. We actually do have another webinar that's strictly all about the BEAR Essentials of Digital Marketing, and once you have access to any of our recorded webinars, then you have access to all of them, so you can definitely check that out afterwards. If you don't know who I am, my name is Rich Brooks, and I'm the president here at Flyte New Media. We're currently celebrating our 20th anniversary. Actually, we're coming right up on our 21st at the end of this month. I'm also the founder of the Agents of Change, a weekly podcast and annual conference all about how to reach more of your ideal customers through search, social, and mobile marketing. I'm the tech guru on 207, the evening news program on the NBC affiliates here in Maine. And I wrote a book called The Lead Machine, The Small Business Guide to Digital Marketing. So this is definitely something I'm pretty passionate about. So why is blogging so important? Why is it so critical to our success and the success of so many of our clients? For a number of reasons. The first being SEO and search traffic, so search engine optimization and search traffic. In other words, if I want to rank well for a specific keyword that I'm targeting, my first step is often just to blog about it, making sure that I work that keyword into the blog post. And as my search visibility and search rankings rise, so does the traffic from the search engines to my website. Longevity. Although social media is an important part of any balanced digital marketing campaign, you tweet something, you post something to Facebook, you put it up on LinkedIn. How long does it last? How long does it stick around? An hour, a day, a couple days at most? I mean, yes, you can always find it if you dig deep enough, but a blog, I'm happy to say that we have blog posts that I wrote back in 2008 and before that are still bringing in over 1,000 visitors a month to our website. That's longevity. Thought leadership. Certainly, if you want to establish yourself as a thought leader, a blog is a perfect way to do it. Credibility. You know, a lot of people, when they come to your website and they're checking you out and comparing you to your competitors, and you've got a lot of great content in your blog, that builds your credibility. And that folds right neatly into press, in terms of getting press. Because of blog posts, journalists have found me, and I have ended up on CNN.com, Huffington Post, Inc. magazine, and other places, and local TV as well, just because of the blog posts that I've been creating here at Flyte. Email signups. Email is a great way of building your business, and having a blog encourages people to sign up for an email version of the blog so they don't miss another issue. And ultimately, lead generation, which is one of the tenets here at Flyte, is just to generate as many qualified leads for your business as possible, and a blog is the perfect way to do that. So with all that being said, why aren't you blogging? What's keeping you from blogging? The excuses I hear most often are time, and I can understand that. Many of you are overworked, or you're entrepreneurs and you've got a million things going on, and time is just something you can't get back. Skills. I hear a lot of times, Rich, I just don't like to write, or I'm not a good writer. You know, I've tried and I'm not good. Well, I'm going to say that for the first two, I get it. The bottom line is it is difficult to carve out time. These days when I'm writing a decent sized blog post, I can often spend over 6 hours writing that blog post, sometimes more. And skills, I like to write, but not everybody does. It may not be the best way for you to do it. So does that mean that your blogging is over? No. I'm a big fan of outsourcing that to a copywriter. We write the blogs for several of our clients, and we have copywriters that create content either on a weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly basis for somebody's blog. The days of saying that the owner or the marketer in the company had to be the one writing blogs are over. Blogs are a marketing tool to improve your visibility, to drive traffic to your website, and persuade people to take you seriously as a vendor. That's the goal. So if you don't have the time or you don't have the skills, honestly, just consider hiring a copywriter. And the third one is ideas. And this can be a struggle. We've all struggled with blogger's block in the past. So I'm going to give you some techniques and ways to overcome this as we go through today's webinar. But first, I want to just frame this up for you with the 5 P's of blogging regimen. The first is to prepare, doing your research before you get started. Then it's actually producing the blog post, doing the writing. Polishing, something that not enough bloggers do. Publishing, which is in some ways the easiest part. And then promoting, something that is often overlooked but critically important. So preparing is a lot about doing the required research before you get started, something that a lot of people just skip over, and it's such a critical piece. If you're struggling also with what am I going to write about, then you definitely have to spend more time preparing your blog posts. Years ago, you could succeed at blogging just by cranking out content, 300 to 500 words, just putting it up on the web. That just won't work these days. The most successful blog posts, the ones that get traffic, the one that gets linked to, the ones that get shared, they're all over 1,000 words long and often have a lot of extra content like videos and graphs and all this other stuff. So be ready to do your research and really make your blog post stand out. And the place to start is, what questions are your customers already asking you? This is such an overlooked opportunity, but your customers are asking questions of you, your sales reps, your customer service reps, everybody in your company. You can go around and start to collect these questions, and each one of these questions may be one or several blog posts. Knowing what one person is asking, however, is not enough. You really need to do a little bit of research once you start to flesh out some of these ideas. And we use a lot of tools here at Flyte to do this. I'm only going to kind of mention a few of these because we're short on time today. But one of the tools I really like, especially for blogging, is Google Trends. And this is a tool that Google provides for free that gives us search data over time. So let's say that you were thinking about writing about either phishing scams or identity theft, two obviously related topics, and you wanted to find out which one has more search queries. As you can see right here, over the past 5 years, that phishing scams overall has more search volume than identity theft, and therefore there may be more need for it in the marketplace. So I would definitely want to lean towards writing my phishing scams article first. And as I scroll down that page, I can see related queries to phishing scams, and then also these are the rising ones. These are the ones that are just emerging, and this part I like the most because if these are the questions that are starting to kind of break out, that means there's interest and not a lot of people perhaps are writing on them yet. So I always look at the rising related queries. And here we see phishing definition, phishing scams definition, phishing scams meaning, Facebook phishing scams, and how to avoid phishing scams. And then there's some more on the following pages as well. But these are all great ideas for blog posts. You also might try BuzzSumo, which is a freemium product. And as you can see here, I typed in phishing scam. And what BuzzSumo's tool is doing is just telling me about the shares on content that falls under the phishing scam title. So here's all the engagement scores. And you can see down the left-hand column, there's a number, got cut off, but these are the top 3 most shared articles about phishing scams. And you can see the Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Pinterest shares on that particular piece of content, and then the total shares in that right column. This gives you a sense of the kind of content that's been written about it, and maybe part of your research is finding out what they've already said and figuring out how you can build on it to make your content even more shareable. as well as getting new ideas or new approaches on how to approach the topic of phishing scam. You can also go over to some of these search consoles and start typing something out. So here we are at YouTube, and let's say we have a cooking blog, how to grill, and then you can see from YouTube, based on their research, based on what's happening over there, all of the different topics that you might want to blog about. How to grill chicken, steak, lobster tail, salmon, asparagus. These are a lot of different blog posts that you can tackle if you're a cooking blog. You can also go over to Google, how to swear. Now, I can't imagine what kind of blog would use this, but you can see that there's a lot of different topics here. How to swear in German, Roblox, Spanish, French, sign language, and so forth. This could be a series of funny blog posts. And by the way, I'm not hip enough to know what Roblox was. I had to go online and, Google it. And you can also get more related search topics and ideas for your blog post down at the bottom of Google. And you can see here I did a search on bathing suits because maybe I'm doing something on, I have a blog on bathing suits or fashion. And I can see bathing suits Target, obviously the store, One Piece, plus size, cheap, for girls, Victoria's Secrets, for juniors, for body types. All great topics that people are asking about. So I know that there's a need out there for me creating that content on my own blog. But don't stop there. There's more research to be done. I know you love research, right? When I'm talking about more research, I mean going and reading other blog posts, finding news articles, watching YouTube videos. All these things are going to feed into your blog. You can quote them, you can link back out to them, but this adds value to your blog post, and Google has an algorithm that really looks at what people value. So these are going to be important things to keep people on the page and keep them reading. And lastly, interview experts. If you can find some experts who are willing to go on the record, this is great because not only are you getting some unique content that's only going to appear on your blog post, but on top of that, once you go live with this and you can thank them and say, hey, listen, I launched the blog post. Thank you so much for your time and effort. As you can see, I gave you a nice big fat quote there, and I linked back to your website. Chances are they're going to want to share that content with their audience, and you're going to get in front of even more eyeballs. So once you've done all your research, it's time to actually sit down and produce that content. Now, you may have a really good idea on the content you want to create, but maybe not sure how to go about it. So, sorry about that. So I want to share with you a number of popular blog types. So once you know your keywords, the words that you're going to be targeting in your blog post, then you want to think about how do you want to frame this content. So some of the popular blog types that we've used in the past, apparently these are coming up automatically, how-tos and tutorials. List, people say they hate lists in blog posts, but they're super successful. Cheat sheets and checklists. Reviews of products. This is also great if you want to get products from vendors. Like just writing reviews tends to get people to send you free stuff so that you can review their products. If you've got a podcast, then definitely doing show notes up into a blog is a great idea. Sometimes creating an entire series like the 10 steps for getting into college, but each step is its own blog post, and then you can just do a kind of a table of contents blog post when you're all done with those. And then one of my favorites is a Dear Abby style post. You take a question that you receive via email and generalize it and anonymize it, and then just answer that post. So there's answer that question. So there's a lot of ways in which you can take one piece of content, say like phishing scams, and do a bunch of different blog types. How to avoid phishing scams. Top 10 phishing scams of 2018. Here's a checklist to see if the email you've received is likely to be a phishing scam, so on and so forth. Once you've figured out what type of blog post you want to write, it's just a matter of going in there and creating that content. So this is a blog post in WordPress, and as you can see, one of the first things I do is I create my content. Now, normally, I want to make this as search engine friendly as possible. So I would start with something like phishing scams, how to avoid being taken, because I want to put my best keywords right up front. That's something the search engines look for. However, I'm going to show you a trick using a tool called Yoast in a few minutes. But for right now, I'll just say that this is the title of the blog post that's most likely to get shared on social media. So I want to think about what are people likely to share on social media. And the one fish, two fish, Admittedly, I stole it from somebody else, but I thought it was kind of clever. The next thing is often WordPress will create its own long URL for you here. So I like to go in and just type over it. And again, making sure that I've got my keyword, in this case, phishing scams, right in there. So I've got phishing scans definition. And as you can see, I'm remembering from before that definition was one of those emerging trend words. Then I get to just writing the copy. And what I like to do is write an introductory paragraph that explains what's going to be in the blog post and works in those keywords again. I also am going to make sure that I've got H2 tags or H1 tags, header tags, and subheader tags within the blog post. And whenever possible, based on my research, I'm just going to have the keywords in those H2 or H1 tags. So we've got phishing scams definition, because we know people are searching for it. And then we've got Facebook phishing scams, which we know is another important thing as well. So I'm basically creating content that my ideal customers are asking for, and I'm presenting it in a way that Google says, this is content that's related to what people are looking for. And obviously, I didn't write out this whole blog post. I just wanted to kind of show you examples of what it might look like. I've also got a link, and let's just pretend that this is a real link, and it goes to a page on my website because maybe I'm selling software that protects you from phishing scams. So this would then link to a page that kind of talks through our software. So again, I'm trying to take people who are interested in phishing scams in general and lead them down the sales path to where they're ready to make a buying decision. And then if I'm going to add images to this blog post, which I strongly recommend, I'm going to make sure that I put in an alt tag of phishing scam or something related to that. Now, you don't need to over optimize these pages, but you do want to make sure that in more cases than not, that you're working your keywords in so that Google is aware that this page is definitely about phishing scams. So once you've done all your writing and put your image up there, put your alt tags in there, then it's time to polish your blog post. And it's funny, when I first saw this photo, I'm like, oh my God, those socks are so cool that they have like the playing cards right, the design of the playing cards in them. And I wanted to find them, and I looked online and I couldn't find anything like them. And then when I looked at the big picture, I realized that the shoe shine guy had actually just put cards in there because he didn't want his client's socks to get wet. But I want to make those socks. So if you know anybody who makes socks, give me their name when we're all done. So how do we polish the blog post? Remember, it's a much more competitive marketplace now, the internet, in terms of getting our content out there. And there are so many blogs out there, and so many mega blogs and group blogs and big media companies with blogs. We really need to go out of our way to make sure that our blog posts stand out. And this comes down to polishing them. One of the first things you can do is hire an editor or work with somebody else to make sure that you're not having any grammar mistakes. Because the minute you start using the wrong there, or you use the word loose when you meant lose, or any of those kind of problems, you're going to lose a certain percentage of your audience. So definitely, even if it's just you, take a break, sleep on the post, come back the next day and read it, and you may find that there's a lot of stuff that just didn't make sense. I can't overemphasize this enough. You also want to find the right kind of images for your blog post. Blog posts these days really need a number of good images, and definitely a nice big header image right at the top of the page. I use a service called Adobe Stock Photos. Used to be Dollar Photo Club, but then they were bought out. Even after Adobe bought them, it's a great deal. I think it works out to $30 a month for 10 photos. And these are high-res photos, incredibly detailed and just well worth it. And then I use different types, often Photoshop, and also an app on my phone sometimes to add some text to this as well, so as these get shared. So I wrote a blog post called The Power of Scarcity. I found this photo with just one donut left and thought that was an appropriate metaphor. Or sometimes I'll just have images down the page that pull out one specific quote from the blog. And so one of the things you'll notice on this particular one is I added our 20-year logo to this. So if somebody was starting to share this image around the web, we'd at least get a little branding going on. And we'll often do images for more than one platform. So this is an example of our blog for our podcast. And you can see that we've got on the left a version that's good for Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And on the right, we've got a version that's good for Pinterest. And these days, we're actually doing something else using a tool called Wave, W-A-V-V-E.
This week on the Agents of Change podcast. I think it's important that you use that group.
So we've pulled a quote from the podcast and we've used it on this to make it a little bit more interactive when we share this out on social media. Obviously, that's only going to work for blogs that have audio components, but worth checking out. So another tool that I swear by is Yoast, and Yoast is a WordPress plugin, and it's great for SEO. It's also great for social. We'll get to that in a minute. But as we scroll down the page after we've written it, and we want to clean this up a little bit, a big way that we're going to get an audience for our blog is by making it as search engine friendly as possible. So here's the default showing of what the post is going to look like, and as you can see from here, it gets cut off, and the quote and the description itself is cut off as well. And so I clicked on edit snippet and I can see that the SEO title is being automatically created for me and the meta description is empty, which is why it just pulled some of the copy from the page. So using this snippet tool in Yoast, I actually clean it up a little bit. I give it a more search engine friendly name, phishing scams defined, how to protect your identity online. And then I also go into the meta description and I give it a very succinct phrase, and now I can see in the snippet preview that it's coming across the way I want it to, and hopefully more people will click on it. So even if I'm being beaten by another blog post about phishing scams, hopefully mine will seem more attractive and more helpful, and people will click on it more often. And if people are clicking through to your website, that's actually one of the variables that Google uses to improve or decrease your search engine ranking. So that's something that to be aware of. So it's worth spending some time on your snippet. And then also in Yoast, I can put in a focus keyword, in this case phishing scams, and get a whole bunch of information back on some potential problems, some things I can do to improve, and where I'm doing well already. So I can continue to improve my post to make it more search engine friendly. And there's also a social tab in Yoast, which is where if I want to have some specific information around Facebook or Twitter, the title and the description and the image, I can put it in here. And I will say, just like half an hour before this webinar started, I started playing around with a new plugin that does not compete with Yoast, but it's called Social Warfare, and it has a lot more social sharing tools built into it, and honestly, I think I'm going to lean towards that going forward. So that's Social Warfare, but I don't have any slides on that. The next step is to publish it. So after it looks the way you want it to, you've gone through the preview, it looks beautiful, it reads well, it has good SEO marks, I click on the Publish button, and then it comes down to promoting our post. So how do we do that? Well, the very first thing I do when my blog post goes live is I make sure that I've clicked on all of those social share buttons down at the bottom. So I tweet it, I post it to my Facebook page, I share it to LinkedIn, I pin it. I used to actually, well, on one of our blogs, we still have the Google Plus logo, although I think I'm going to remove it. I don't see any value for it anymore. I don't think it really provides any search engine benefit anymore, and nobody goes to Google Plus. So, but this is how people might share my content. But I'm going to share it first, because when you go to a blog and there are social sharing buttons there and there's the sharings are 000 goose eggs across the top, it basically undermines that blog post's importance. It's saying that not even the author of the blog post wanted to share that kind of content, so why should you? So just like a bartender puts $1 in the tip jar, or a 5 or a 10 before his or her shift starts, the first thing you want to do is go ahead and share it across those platforms using the social sharing buttons. Another advanced tactic that you can use is find related blog posts you may have already written that already have search traffic, that already have trust built up the search engines, and create links from those older posts to your new ones. So to find the best ones, you can see here on the Google search, I type in site, takeflyte.com. Obviously, you're going to replace that with your own domain. And then the phrase, in this case, Google Analytics. And then I can see the most popular pages on my website for Google Analytics. I go to those posts, and then if there's an appropriate way of linking those posts to my newest post on Google Analytics, then I'll do that. And that's going to help drive some more search visibility towards my new blog post and establish its credibility. And these days, you really do need to throw money behind a lot of your blog posts. So I would recommend you can do some promoted posts on Facebook, possibly on Twitter, although really our focus these days is on Facebook and Pinterest. And spending a little bit of money for a week or two after the blog post goes live, $5 a day, something like that, it stinks that we have to spend money to send people to our marketing material, but that's just how things are. So set up a budget for yourself, $5 to $10 a day, post it to Facebook. You can do things like targeting people with a specific job title, or targeting certain types of people, or targeting people who have already visited your website and maybe read other blog posts. These are all important things in terms of just kind of building awareness and building retention with your audience. Let me give you a few extra credit items before we wrap up for today. If you've done all these things and you still want to dig a little bit deeper, one is called the evil twin post. And this is a guest blogging technique. So the benefits of guest blogging is that A, you're reaching a brand new audience that you might not have reached otherwise. And B, when you're writing this guest blog post, at a bare minimum in your byline, you're going to get a link back to your website. And depending on the kind of content you're creating, you might be able to create multiple links back to your website. That's very beneficial for search engine optimization. Now, it's tough enough to create one blog post, so why would you want to create more blog posts for yourself, besides the reasons I just explained? Well, here's a shortcut. If you wrote 10 ways to get into college, you could write an evil twin post called 10 ways to make sure you're not accepted by the college of your choice. And basically just use an evil cracked mirror on all your ideas. So basically you're writing from the opposite perspective. Same kind of content. It'll take you half the time, if that, to rewrite it in that kind of mirrored approach. But again, then you can go out and you can get it to other blogs. And if you've never tried to guest blog post somewhere else, one of the easiest ways to do it is take your topic of choice and go to Google. So we'll go with phishing scams. And you could type in something like phishing scams plus guest post. And Google will bring back all the blogs that are likely to be accepting guest posts on that topic or around that category. So that's definitely something worth doing. Another way to get your blog to work for you, because a lot of these things, it's like I said, it takes me 6 hours minimum to write a good blog post these days. So I want to get it to go as far as possible. So I love a tool called SlideShare. It's kind of like YouTube for PowerPoint presentations. So as you can see here, I used to have a blog called The Marketing Agents, and we did a lot of list posts there. And whenever I would do a list post, we had a template for a slide deck, and we would just create the slide deck. As you can see here, Facebook marketing, content marketing, blog marketing, and they were just lists. And I would convert it into a slide deck, and then we'd upload it to our account at SlideShare. And so one of our posts might look like this. So this is 9 of 15. So they're short. There's an introduction. There's the list of 13. There's the last one. And all I did was take the title, take the images I used on that particular part of the post, and then events are a great way to reach a wider audience on Facebook. That was it. You put that up there, and look at that, over 10,000 views. This, once we had the template in place, would take us 15, 20 minutes. 10,000 views for 15 or 20 minutes worth of work. And another thing we've been doing lately is LinkedIn articles. And you can do this for a blog, or you can do it for the podcast version of the blog. Basically, we take the image that we're already creating for our blog. In this case, you can see it up top. And then we basically repost that article right to LinkedIn. It doesn't even need to be an evil twin article necessarily, but it's reaching a wider audience, one that's on LinkedIn. This is obviously more important for B2B. Because podcasts aren't easily embedded in here, what I've been doing lately is taking the audio of my podcast and putting it with one of these promotional images we have, uploading that to YouTube, embedding YouTube back into my LinkedIn post, and then I'm literally copying and pasting that content that's already been written up into LinkedIn's article section. As you can see here, in a few weeks, I got 254 views, 97 thumbs up, a comment, and 8 shares. So again, this took me probably 15 minutes because we had to put the video together, upload it to YouTube, and then embed it all in. But all the work was done. And so again, for another 15, 20 minutes of work to reach that wider audience and just give them an opportunity to know your brand and bring you back, this is a great way of leveraging your blog. So as we wrap up today, I just want to kind of reiterate those 5 P's of building a successful business blog. Prepare. Do your research. Do your keyword research. Find blogs, find podcasts, and find experts who will give you quotes and then most likely share your content when you're done. Do the producing. Do the writing. Polish it. Use Yoast. Find the best images. Spend time on this. Make it look as good as the most professionally promoted piece of content you can. Publish that content and then promote it. Social shares. It should already be search engine optimized. Use some of those advanced techniques that I mentioned. And that's the way that you're going to use your business blog as an integral part of the bare essentials of digital marketing. And that's the content that we have for today. I hope you found it valuable. If you've got questions, if you haven't asked them yet, go ahead and take a look at those leave your questions in the comment field or in the questions field, and I'll go ahead and I'll answer them. It looks like a few of them came in. How do you feel about breaking up the text of the blog with multiple images? For example, text, image, text, etc. Great question, Maria. I think that's a great approach. I think it's one of those things where if it makes sense for your particular post to do it, then absolutely. I'm not a huge fan of throwing images in there for no good reason, but I do think that images break up content. It adds white space in its own way, and I think that's very valuable. And I do a lot of how-to blog posts. So in cases like that, I probably want to use images wherever possible to show people what I'm doing. So I might explain something and have a photo, explain something, the next step, have a photo, that sort of stuff. So I definitely think that that's very beneficial. And just make sure that you're using appropriate alt tags on all those images. Should the meta description always be a full sentence, or can you list keywords and keyword phrases separated by commas? You definitely don't want to do that, Maria. Years ago, there was a tag called meta keywords where literally people would just put in all the keywords that they hoped to rank well for. And back in 1997, that worked. Now, no one pays attention to that. No search engine pays attention to that. And the meta description itself is not really something that's going to improve your search engine ranking directly. It's more about when somebody sees your description, is it going to increase the likelihood of they'll click on your link. So if they just see a bunch of keywords, that feels kind of scammy and they're less likely to click on it. So I would use that 1 to 2 sentence meta description. I'd view it more as a call to action, as a free advertisement, something like that. How do you make your short advertisement there on the homepage of Google seem more enticing to your ideal customer? Can I go back and change the SEO title and the meta description after I've already published the post? Daniel, absolutely you can. And that brings up a great point. I'm glad you asked that, Daniel, because lately I have been not creating a whole lot of new blog posts because I've already written over a lot of the topics that we at Flyte want to talk about. Google Analytics, search engine optimization, email marketing. I've written blog posts. Those blog posts have trust built up. They have links coming into them. So I'd be competing with myself to create new content. So my new approach is to take a blog post that might be slipping from the search engine rankings or just feels old and out of date and rehab it. So if I rehab it, I might go through the same process as if I was writing a new article on email marketing, for example. Get some new keywords, new emerging keywords, rewrite that blog post, keep the URL the same. That's an important thing. Keep the URL the same. Give it a better title. Give it a better meta description. Overhaul the images. A lot of times in the old days, I didn't put an image with every blog post, or if I did, it was kind of cruddy. So I would say, depending on the number of blog posts you have already, think about if you've already talked about this topic, maybe you just want to find an old blog post that just needs a little TLC. So you can absolutely go back and change the title and the meta description and the content in that blog post. Just don't change the URL. Do you ever blog your own videos? Is this a good idea? Maria, it's a great idea. I love doing that. One of the things I'll often do is I'll create a video, say like how to set up Google Analytics the right way. And either I'll take a full transcription of that and just post it along. So I'll create the video, I upload it to YouTube, I write up the transcript, I put that into the description at YouTube. Then I come back to my blog, I basically either use that same description or I might summarize it or write it in another way and embed the video right into that blog post. So that's how I'm trying to optimize this particular page on the internet for how to set up Google Analytics the right way. I'm really trying to focus in on that phrase, and between the video and the words on the page, I'm hopefully doing a really good job of doing that. So yes, if you've got videos and they're up on YouTube or Vimeo or some site like that, create a blog post around that content if it serves your business purposes, and add a transcript or a summary or show notes from that video. Best advice for guest bloggers. A lot of different ways I can go with this. If you're looking to get more guest blogging opportunities, there are some services out there that are kind of like a marketplace for guest bloggers, but my experience has been is the blogs there are very low quality and won't really bring you an audience or the search visibility that you're looking for. So again, I'd start with maybe, if you're not established, I'd start with doing the phishing scams or whatever your topic is, plus guest blogs or guest posts, and see which blogs out there are looking for guest bloggers in your niche. And that would be one thing. I'd also look to find out who the industry leaders are in that particular area, and then seeing if they're going to take guest blog posts, even if they don't maybe mention it on their page. And then find out what the rules are. Ask for editorial guidelines. How long should it be? Create your best content for somebody else's blog, because you want to get them really excited about having you write again for them if at all possible. And if you're putting out mediocre content, nobody's going to visit your website, nobody's going to click through. And at the end of the day, that's one of the biggest goals. In sharing our own posts, if we use the share buttons to share them all over to all of our channels of publication, are we overloading our fans and followers? Good question, Jessica, but I would say probably not. We always think we're overwhelming our audience, but remember, of all the competing messages that are out there, chances are they're not going to see your tweet. Chances are they're not going to see your organic Facebook post, and chances are they're not going to see your LinkedIn. So I would actually say that maybe you should have multiple people from your office share it, not necessarily always on the same day, or you share it on Facebook from your company page and then have employees share it to their particular personal profiles if they feel comfortable with that. Share that to your LinkedIn profiles. Mention it multiple times about Twitter and on LinkedIn. LinkedIn and Twitter especially, because the newsfeed moves so fast in those that I don't see a problem with posting it 3 times the day you launch it, and then putting it in some evergreen posting tool like Edgar or Social or Hootsuite or any of those, Social Sprout, any of those kind of tools, just to continually raise visibility for those posts. One thing I think I forgot to mention is one of the most critical pieces of any sort of promotion of your blog is sending it out to your email list. I can't believe I forgot that. So thanks for staying tuned here. The number one driver of traffic to your blog post are going to be your email subscribers. So make sure that that is part of your regimen. A note on Facebook boosting. I've had a lot of trouble recently boosting a blog that I'd done for my company when it turned out that Facebook had deactivated some of their job title and interest subcategories, but they still appeared in the menus, and they wouldn't let me boost until I used an available category, but they didn't tell me which ones were valid and which ones weren't. A little annoying. Daniel, that sounds more than just a little annoying. Right now, Facebook's going through a little bit of self-reflection, and so that could be part of what's going on. I know that right now you can't create any new chatbots on Facebook as they review their privacy issues. So that might be a temporary glitch, but I know that Facebook is famous for, not necessarily always being the most helpful or the most transparent when it comes to reaching your ideal customer. A question on what about polls too? That wasn't mentioned as a valid blog type, but I would like to think that it would be one to boost, to solicit response, and then there's the opportunity to do a follow post with charts analyzing the results. Yeah, I mean, I haven't really explored that, but if you've had success with creating polls, I find that especially in blogging these days compared to like maybe 5 or 10 years ago, you get less comments than you used to get. And most of that social activity takes place in social media. So if it's working for you, great. But if somebody said I need to write a survey or a poll post, I would probably consider creating that poll in social media, especially on a platform like Facebook where you can get that level of engagement, and then turning the answers into a blog post, and then going back to the original thread in Facebook and saying, hey, thanks for everybody's input. If you'd like to see the final results and my analysis of those results, you can click here. And then anybody who had left a comment would get a little notification about that, and hopefully they would come visit you. Getting some congratulations and some thank yous. Welcome, everybody. I appreciate it. And of course, there will be a full recap afterwards. So probably in the next day or two, we'll be sending out a link where you can watch the entire presentation if you missed it, or send it along to friends, family, and associates who you think would benefit from this. And it looks like that's all the questions we have for today. If you have any more questions that come up in the next couple days or after you rewatch the webinar, feel free to reach out to me. As you can see, my information's up there on the screen, rich@takeflyte.com. I'm also at the Rich Brooks on Twitter and everywhere else. Pretty easy to reach. And of course, I'll be sending out an email follow-up, and so you can just hit the reply button as well. If you have any questions about blogging or any other digital marketing, or you need help with your own digital marketing to generate more leads from your website, happy to help you out. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.